How is this possible? Are these kids mine? I'm sorry, but I can't get married to Hana. How can you do this to my daughter in public?
I can't let my children live with a father like you.
Before we dive into this story of power, secrets, and impossible choices, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, you'll want to see how this unfolds. Now let's begin. Dae-hyun Shin stood near the center of the ballroom of Shilla Hotel, a glass of untouched whiskey in his hand. Tonight was his fiancée's 28th birthday, and Hana Lee was radiant in a champagne-colored gown that probably cost as much as a luxury car. Everything was perfect, controlled, exactly as he'd planned. Then he saw her. She stood near the ornate dessert table on the far side of the ballroom, and for a moment, Dae-hyun forgot how to breathe. Zara Williams. It had been 8 years, but he would have recognized her anywhere. She was 28 now, a stunning young woman with light brown skin that seemed to glow under the chandelier light. Her long black hair was pulled back in a sleek, straight ponytail that fell past her shoulders. She wore a simple navy dress that stood out among the designer gowns, precisely because of its simplicity, its elegance. But Dae-hyun wasn't looking at her. He was staring at the 2 children holding her hands, a boy and a girl, maybe 7 years old, mixed race, light-skinned with distinctly Korean features. The boy had Dae-hyun's exact eyes, that same serious expression he saw in the mirror every morning. The girl had his nose, his mouth, but her smile, warm and open and trusting. That was all Zara. The whiskey glass trembled in his hand, just slightly, just enough. "Excuse me," he said to Hana, his voice perfectly controlled even as his heart hammered against his ribs like it was trying to escape. "I need to make a call." He moved through the crowd with the same measured pace he always used, giving no indication that his entire world had just tilted on its axis. But every step brought him closer to Zara, closer to those children, closer to questions he didn't know how to ask. She saw him coming. Her eyes widened, and her hand tightened on the little girl's shoulder. The boy looked up at his mother, sensing her tension with the instinct children have for knowing when adults are afraid. Dae-hyun reached them just as they were turning toward the exit. "Zara." She froze, turned, met his eyes with a complicated expression that held 8 years of absence, of secrets, of everything they'd never said. "Dae-hyun." Her voice was exactly as he remembered, soft, melodic, with that slight American accent that had always charmed him. But now there was wariness in it, and something else. Protection. "We were just leaving." "Who are they?" He gestured to the children, his hand remarkably steady considering the earthquake happening inside his chest. "Mom? Who's this man?" The boy looked up at Dae-hyun with open curiosity. His eyes. His son had his eyes. "Someone I used to know, Elijah." "Come on, we need to go." Zara's hand found the girls. "Naya, sweetheart." "Wait." Dae-hyun's voice came out sharper than he intended. Several nearby guests glanced over. He lowered his voice, leaned in. "The balcony. Now, please." Zara looked at the children, then back at him. Something in his expression must have convinced her, because she nodded once, curtly. "Stay right here," she told the twins. "Don't move. I'll be right back." She followed him through the French doors onto a private balcony that overlooked the glittering Seoul skyline. The moment the door closed behind them, cutting off the party noise, Dae-hyun turned to her. "Explain. Now." Zara crossed her arms, and he noticed her hands were shaking. Mina invited us. She volunteers at the children's hospital where I work. She's been wonderful to the pediatric ward, always bringing donations, spending time with the kids. She had no idea who I was to you. She just thought I was a nurse who might enjoy an elegant evening out. That's not what I'm asking about. I know what you're asking about. Her voice broke slightly. They're yours, Daehyun, Elijah, and Naya. They're 7 years old. And before you ask, yes, I'm sure. The confirmation hit him like a physical blow, even though he'd already known. Had known the moment he saw them. Why didn't you tell me? Because I found out who you really are. The words came out fierce, angry. 8 years ago, when I was 2 months pregnant, I saw the news. The warehouse fire in Gangnam. 23 people dead. Bodies burned beyond recognition. And everyone kept whispering one name, yours, Daehyun Shin. The man I thought I knew. The man I thought I loved. He remembered that night. A rival gang had tried to move into his territory. He'd responded with the kind of decisive violence that ensured no one would try again. It had been necessary, strategic, the cost of maintaining power in a world where mercy was fatal. So you ran, he said flatly, so I protected my children. Zara's eyes blazed. I did research, real research, and I found out everything. The smuggling, the extortion, the people who disappeared when they crossed you. You weren't the man I met at that hospital fundraiser. You were a monster in a nice suit. I never lied to you about who I was. You never told me the truth either. She wrapped her arms around herself. I couldn't raise children in your shadow, Daehyun. I couldn't watch them grow up thinking that violence and fear were normal. So I left. I moved to Vancouver. I changed my name. I made sure you could never find us. You stole 8 years from me. The anger in his voice surprised him. He so rarely allowed himself to feel anger. Control was everything. But standing here, learning he had children he'd never held, never known, something primal and raw clawed its way up his throat. 8 years of their lives, of watching them grow, of being their father. You can't be their father. Zara stepped closer, and he could see unshed tears making her eyes shine. Not the real you, not the man who orders people killed before breakfast. They deserve better than that. They deserve safety, normalcy, a childhood that doesn't involve bodyguards and enemies and wondering if their father will come home in a body bag. And you get to make that decision alone? Someone had to. And I chose them. I will always choose them. Through the glass doors, he could see Elijah and Naya standing exactly where Zara had left them. The girl, Naya, was pointing at something in the ballroom, saying something that made her brother smile. His daughter, his son, 7 years old and complete strangers. We're flying back to Vancouver tomorrow, Zara said quietly. First thing in the morning. Let us go, Daehyun. Let us disappear again. It's better for everyone, especially for them. Better? He turned back to her. You think it's better for children to grow up without a father? Better than growing up with a father like you? The words should have stung. They didn't, because she was right, and they both knew it. In his world, family was weakness. Love was a weapon enemies used to destroy you. He'd seen it happen a dozen times. Powerful men brought down because someone threatened their wife, their children, their one soft spot in an armor of calculated cruelty. His phone vibrated in his pocket. Probably Hannah wondering where he'd disappeared to, or Thomas, his second in command, reporting on some business that needed his attention. The Empire didn't pause just because his personal life had detonated. "I need to get back to them," Zara said, moving toward the door. This was a mistake. Coming here was a mistake. "Zara." She paused, hand on the door handle. "What are they like?" The question surprised him as much as it seemed to surprise her. "Tell me something. Anything. Please." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Elijah is serious, thoughtful. He reads books that are too advanced for his age and asks questions I don't know how to answer. He wants to be a doctor. He says he wants to help people." A small, sad smile touched her lips. "Naya is pure sunshine. She makes friends everywhere she goes. She loves drawing and dancing and telling elaborate stories about princesses who save themselves. She's fearless in a way that terrifies me." They sound incredible. They are. Zara opened the door. "Goodbye, Daehyun." He watched her walk back into the ballroom, watched her gather the twins and guide them toward the exit. Naya looked back once, her small face curious, before her mother urged her forward. Then they were gone, swallowed by the crowd, and then gone from the venue entirely. Daehyun stood on the balcony for another minute, his hands gripping, the railing hard enough that his knuckles went white. Inside, the party continued. Hannah would be looking for him. Victor would be watching with those calculating eyes that missed nothing. His empire demanded his attention, his focus, his absolute commitment. But all he could think about was a little boy who wanted to be a doctor and a little girl who told stories about princesses. All he could think about was 8 years of bedtimes he'd missed. First words, first steps, first days of school, birthday parties and scraped knees and all the tiny moments that made up a childhood. Gone, stolen, lost forever. When he walked back into the ballroom, Hannah was waiting. "There you are." Hannah's smile was perfect, but her eyes were sharp. "Is everything all right?" "Business call," Daehyun said smoothly. "Nothing that can't wait until tomorrow." But Hannah wasn't stupid. She'd survived in their world by being observant, calculating, always 3 steps ahead. Her gaze flickered toward the exit where Zara had disappeared, then back to him. "Who was that woman? The one with the children?" "No one important." "You're lying." She said it matter-of-factly, without accusation. "You've never lied to me before, Daehyun. Don't start now." He looked at her. This woman he was supposed to marry in 3 weeks. Beautiful, intelligent, perfectly suited to be the wife of a man like him. She understood the world they lived in. She would never ask him to be someone he wasn't. Their marriage was a strategic alliance, yes, but it was also built on mutual respect and a kind of honest pragmatism that most couples never achieved. "Her name is Zara Williams," he said quietly. "I knew her a long time ago, before you and I met, before any of this." He gestured vaguely at the ballroom, the life they'd built. "And the children?" Daehyun didn't answer, didn't need to. Hannah's expression shifted, not with jealousy or hurt, but with something colder. Calculation. "I see." She touched his arm gently. "We should talk, but not here, tomorrow. My father will want to know about this." "There's nothing to know. She's leaving Seoul in the morning." "Is she?" Hannah's perfectly manicured eyebrows lifted slightly. "Are you sure about that?" She walked away before he could respond, rejoining a group of guests who immediately brightened at her approach. Dae-hyun watched her go and felt the first stirrings of something he hadn't experienced in years. Dread. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of handshakes and empty conversation. Dae-hyun played his role perfectly. The gracious host, the attentive fiancé, the powerful man comfortable in his domain, but his mind was elsewhere. In a modest hotel room somewhere in Seoul, where a woman he'd once loved was tucking 2 children into bed. His children. Reading them stories, kissing their foreheads, promising them they'd be home soon. When he finally left the venue at midnight, his driver was waiting with the usual black sedan. Thomas Kwan sat in the passenger seat, his scarred face impassive. The Riverside Hotel, room 847, Thomas said without preamble. 3 tickets to Vancouver. Flight leaves at 2 p.m. tomorrow. I can have them canceled if you want. How did you know? I always know. Thomas turned in his seat. Boss, do I want to know what this is about? Probably not. Are they yours? Dae-hyun stared out the window at Seoul's glittering skyline, his city, his empire, built on blood and fear and the absolute certainty that he would sacrifice anything to maintain power. Yes. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. Victor Lee won't like this. I know. Hana won't like this. I know. Every enemy you've ever made will see this as an opportunity. I know. Dae-hyun's voice was sharp. I know all of it, Thomas. I know exactly what this means. So what do you want to do? That was the question, wasn't it? What did he want? For 15 years, he'd known exactly what he wanted. Power, respect, an empire that would outlast him. He'd made every decision based on cold logic and strategic advantage. Emotions were weaknesses to be exploited in others, never indulged in himself. But tonight, standing on that balcony, looking at 2 children who shared his blood, something had shifted. Some long dormant part of himself had woken up and refused to go back to sleep. Cancel the tickets, he said finally, quietly. I need time to think. Boss, just do it, Thomas. The next morning, Dae-hyun woke in his penthouse apartment to 17 missed calls and 34 text messages. Most were business. Shipments to approve, payments to authorize, problems that needed his attention. But 3 calls were from Victor Lee, and the messages from Hana all said the same thing. Come to the compound. Now. We need to talk. He showered, dressed in another impeccable suit, and made the drive to Gangnam. Victor's compound was less a home and more a fortress. 12-foot walls topped with cameras, armed guards at every entrance, architecture designed to repel attacks. Dae-hyun had always admired its brutal efficiency. Today, it felt like a prison. Hana met him in the foyer. He knows, she said simply. Everything. How? Does it matter? He knows. Come on. Victor's office was on the 3rd floor, a massive space with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked a meticulously maintained garden. The crime boss sat behind an enormous mahogany desk, his silver hair perfectly styled, his expression unreadable. Sit, Victor said. Not an invitation, a command. Dae-hyun sat. Hana stood beside her father, presenting a united front. Tell me about the woman, Victor said. Her name is Zara Williams. I knew her 8 years ago. She left without explanation. Last night was the first time I'd seen her since. And the children? Mine. Twins. 7 years old. Victor nodded slowly, as if confirming something he'd already known. I had her investigated this morning, the moment Hannah told me. Zara Williams, 28, pediatric nurse, immigrated to Canada 8 years ago under her maiden name. Clean record, no criminal associations. She's exactly what she appears to be, a woman trying to protect her children from a world she doesn't understand. That's correct. Admirable, really. Victor stood, walking to the windows, but also incredibly problematic. You understand why, I assume? I understand that in our world, family is a liability. It's more than that. Victor turned back to him. Family is a weapon our enemies use to destroy us. I've seen it happen dozens of times. Powerful men brought to their knees because someone threatened their wife, their children. They make impossible choices. They betray alliances. They show weakness. And in our world, weakness is fatal. I'm not weak. No, you're not. You're one of the most ruthless men I've ever known. That's why I agreed to this marriage. That's why I trusted my daughter to you. Victor's expression hardened. But those children change everything. Every rival you've crushed, every enemy you've made, and you've made many, they'll all see those twins as an opportunity, a vulnerability, a way to hurt you. If you're wondering what choice Dae-hyun will make, drop a comment below. Would you choose power or family? And don't forget to like this video. We're just getting to the impossible decision. Dae-hyun's jaw clenched. What are you saying? I'm saying you have a choice to make. Victor returned to his desk, sat down, folded his hands. Option 1. You marry Hannah as planned. You secure our alliance. You forget about Zara Williams and those children. Let them return to Vancouver. Never contact them again. Never acknowledge them. They live their lives. You live yours. Safe. Separate. And option 2? You choose them. You walk away from all of this. The empire, the protection, the power. But understand, the moment you do that, you become a target. And so do they. Every man you've wronged will see them as justice waiting to happen. How long do you think that woman and those children will survive once word gets out that you've shown weakness? The words hung in the air like poison gas. Hannah spoke for the first time. I've known about her for years, Dae-hyun. About Zara. I've had people watching her since you and I started this arrangement. I knew she existed. I knew she'd disappeared. I tolerated it because she was gone, and because I understood that even men like you have pasts. How thoughtful of you, Dae-hyun said dryly. But if you acknowledge those children, you show weakness to the entire underworld. You prove that you can be controlled, manipulated, hurt through something other than direct force. That makes you vulnerable. That makes me vulnerable. That makes my father vulnerable. I won't accept that. Victor nodded. The wedding is in 3 weeks. The engagement gala is in 4 days. Saturday night. That's when we'll make the formal announcement to all our associates, all our allies. You'll stand beside Hannah and commit publicly to this alliance. And if I don't, then you're on your own. Victor's voice was cold, final. No alliance, no protection. And I'll make sure every criminal organization in Asia knows that Dae-hyun Shin has a woman and 2 children he cares about more than his empire. I wonder how long it will take before someone uses them against you. A week? A day? An hour? Dae-hyun stood, his hands curled into fists at his sides. Every instinct screamed at him to flip the desk, to grab Victor by his expensive tie and remind him exactly why people feared the name Dae-hyun Shin. But that would prove nothing except Victor's point, that he could be baited, that he could lose control. How long do I have to decide? 4 days, Victor said. Saturday night, engagement gala. Make your choice and announce it to the world. Dae-hyun walked out without another word. Hana followed him to the elevator. I know you think I'm being cruel, she said quietly, but I'm being practical. This is the world we live in. Love is a luxury we can't afford. Is it? He looked at her. Have you ever loved anyone, Hana? I love my father. I love the life we've built. I love the security that comes from making smart decisions instead of emotional ones. She pressed the elevator button. And I respect you, Dae-hyun. I respect your intelligence and your strength. That's more than most couples in our world can say. The elevator doors opened. He stepped inside. 4 days, Hana reminded him. Choose wisely. Dae-hyun spent the rest of the day in his office, staring at the Han River and trying to think strategically. But every calculation led back to the same impossible equation. Choose power, lose his children, choose his children, lose everything else, and possibly get them killed in the process. At 4 p.m., Thomas entered without knocking. The tickets were canceled. She tried to rebook twice. Both times, mysteriously, the system crashed. Thomas sat down across from him. She's still at the hotel. The kids spent the morning at a nearby park. She's scared, boss. She knows someone's keeping her here. I need to talk to her. That's probably not wise. I don't care about wise right now. Thomas sighed. There's a park 2 blocks from her hotel. Hanggang Park by the river. Take her there. Public, but easy to secure. I'll have men positioned around the perimeter. Discreet. Set it up for tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. After Tomas left, Dae-hyun opened his laptop and did something he hadn't done in years. He looked at social media. Zara didn't have much of an online presence, but there were a few photos on a mostly private Instagram account. Pictures of the twins at a playground, Halloween costumes, Elijah as a scientist, Naya as a superhero, a birthday cake with 7 candles. Everyday moments that he'd missed entirely. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I know you're keeping us here. Whatever you want, the answer is no. Just let us go home. He stared at the message for a long time before typing back. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., Hanggang Park near the Riverside Hotel. Please, I just want to talk. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, if you bring anyone, if this is some kind of trap, I swear to God, it's not. Just me. Just you. And if you want, the kids can come. They should know who I am. They deserve that much. A longer pause this time. Fine, 9 a.m. But this doesn't change anything, Dae-hyun. We're still leaving. He didn't respond because he didn't know what to say. Instead, he sat in his office until the sun set and the city lights came on, one by one, like stars falling to earth. His empire stretched out before him, vast and powerful and utterly hollow. Somewhere in that city, his children were falling asleep. Did they wonder about him? Did Zara tell them stories about who their father was? Or did she invent comfortable lies? Did they feel the absence of something they'd never known? For the first time in 15 years, Dae-hyun Shin felt something he'd trained himself never to feel. Doubt. The morning arrived cold and crisp, autumn settling over Seoul like a held breath. Daehyun arrived at Hangang Park at 8:45, earlier than agreed. Tomas had men positioned around the perimeter, disguised as joggers, street vendors, couples on morning walks. Invisible, but present. He couldn't turn off 15 years of caution just because his heart demanded it. Zara arrived at exactly 9 a.m., holding Elijah and Naya's hands. The children wore matching backpacks and colorful jackets. They looked around the park with wide eyes, excited by the adventure of it all, unaware of the weight this meeting carried. "Thank you for coming," Daehyun said. His voice sounded strange to his own ears, uncertain, vulnerable. "I didn't have much choice, did I?" Zara's tone was sharp. "Someone made it impossible for us to leave. I needed time to think, to figure out what comes next. What comes next is we go home." She pulled the children closer. "You go back to your life, we go back to ours. That's how this works." "Mom, can we go to the swings?" Naya tugged on her mother's hand, pointing to a playground 50 feet away. Zara hesitated, glancing at Daehyun. "They'll be safe," he said quietly. "I promise." She studied his face for a long moment, then nodded. "Stay where I can see you. Don't talk to strangers. Come back if I call you." The twins raced toward the playground, their laughter carrying on the morning air. Zara and Daehyun walked slowly along the river path, maintaining a careful distance from each other. "I've spent 8 years building a life for them," Zara said. "A good life, safe, normal. They go to a great school, they have friends. Elijah takes piano lessons, Naya does gymnastics. They don't know anything about your world, Daehyun, and I want to keep it that way. I understand that, I do, but they're still my children. Biology doesn't make you a father." Her words cut deeper than any knife. "Being there does, showing up does, protecting them from monsters does, even if that monster is you. You think I'm a monster. I think you're a man who's done monstrous things. There's a difference. Maybe." She stopped walking, turned to face him. "Why did you become this? The man at that hospital fundraiser. He was kind, thoughtful. He talked about wanting to make a difference in the world. What happened to him? He never existed." Daehyun's voice was flat. "That was a mask, a role I played because it was useful to infiltrate those circles. The real me is exactly what you discovered 8 years ago." "I don't believe that." "You should. If that were true, you wouldn't have asked me here. You would have just let us go. Or worse." Zara's eyes searched his face. "There's still something human in you, Daehyun. Something that wants to be more than what you've become. I saw it last night. I see it now." From the playground, Naya's voice rang out. "Mom, watch this!" She hung upside down from the monkey bars, her ponytail swinging. "Be careful," Zara called back, then softer. "She's fearless. It terrifies me every single day. You said she tells stories about princesses. Princesses who save themselves, who don't wait for princes to rescue them. She makes up these elaborate adventures." A small smile touched Zara's lips despite the tension. "Last week, it was about a princess who befriended a dragon, and together they started a bakery. The week before that, a princess who became a detective and solved crimes using cake recipes as clues. She sounds remarkable." "She is. They both are." The smile faded. "And I won't let your world destroy that. I won't let them grow up thinking that violence and fear are the price of power. What if I walked away? The words came out before Dae-hyun could stop them. From all of it, the empire, the business, everything. Zara stared at him. What are you talking about? I have leverage, files, evidence on everyone from police commissioners to parliament members, 15 years of carefully documented crimes, transactions, relationships. I could trade it for immunity, for a way out. You're serious. I could dismantle the empire, piece by piece, give it to the authorities in exchange for a new life, witness protection, new identities. We could disappear together. You, me, the children. Men like you don't just walk away, Dae-hyun. You said it yourself. You've spent 15 years building this. You've made enemies, powerful enemies. They won't just let you leave. I know. He turned to watch his children playing, unaware of the impossible decision being made 50 feet away. But maybe it's time someone tried. Maybe it's time someone chose differently. Elijah appeared then, walking toward them with his serious expression. Mom, can that man push me on the swing? You said not to talk to strangers, but he's not a stranger to you. Zara's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Dae-hyun, at this man who'd ordered deaths before breakfast, who'd built an empire on blood and fear, and she saw something she hadn't expected to see. Hope. Desperate, fragile, terrifying hope. Go ahead, she whispered. Dae-hyun walked with Elijah to the swings. His son, and God. It felt strange and wonderful to think that word, climbed onto the seat and gripped the chains. Not too high, Elijah said seriously. Mom says I have to be careful because I broke my arm last year falling off the monkey bars. I'll be careful, Dae-hyun promised. He began to push, gently at first, then gradually higher as Elijah's confidence grew. Are you the reason we can't go home? Elijah asked suddenly. Children's bluntness, cutting right to the truth. Yes. Why? Because I just found out you exist, and I'm trying to figure out what to do about that. Mom says you're dangerous, that we have to stay away from you. Your mother is a very smart woman. You should listen to her. Elijah twisted to look back at him. But you don't want us to stay away. No, I don't. Why not? How did you explain to a 7-year-old the sudden, overwhelming need to be part of their life? How did you articulate the hollow ache of 15 years of ruthless success that suddenly meant nothing compared to 5 minutes pushing your son on a swing? Because you're my son, Dae-hyun said simply, and I've already missed too much. Naya ran over then, demanding her turn. For the next 10 minutes, Dae-hyun pushed his children on the swings, and it was the most normal, mundane, perfect thing he'd ever done. They laughed. They competed to see who could go higher. Naya told him a story about a princess who discovered her father was secretly a wizard, but he'd forgotten all his magic and had to learn how to be regular again. The metaphor wasn't lost on him. When the children ran off to explore the playground equipment, Dae-hyun returned to Zara. She'd been crying. He could see the tracks on her cheeks. You're good with them, she said. I'm trying. If you really mean this, walking away, starting over, you need to understand what you're risking. Not just for you, but for all of us. I know. Do you? Her voice rose. Victor Lee won't just let you go. Hana won't forgive this betrayal. Every enemy you've made will come for you. For us. For them. She pointed at the twins. How do you protect children from men who know how to hurt people in ways that leave no evidence? How do you give them a normal life when you're looking over your shoulder every single day? I don't know, Daehyun admitted, but I know that doing nothing, letting you disappear again, never seeing them, that's not an option anymore. I can't unknow they exist. I can't pretend this doesn't matter. Mattering isn't enough. Love isn't enough. Not in your world. Then maybe I need to leave my world. Zara was quiet for a long time. Finally, if you do this, if you really try, I need you to understand something. This isn't about you and me. What we had is gone. This is only about them, about giving them a father who won't get them killed. Can you be that man? I can try. Trying isn't good enough. Then I'll succeed. Or I'll die trying. He met her eyes. Better to die trying to live than to live already dead. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. 4 days, you said, until the engagement gala. We're coming up to the moment of truth. If you're invested in this story, show some love by hitting that like button. And comment below, do you think Daehyun can really change? Let's find out together. 4 days, he confirmed. What happens then? I make my choice, publicly, in front of everyone who matters in my world. And if you choose us, then we run, fast and far, new identities, new lives. I have resources they don't know about, money in accounts they can't trace, allies who owe me favors. It won't be easy, but it's possible. Possible isn't certain. Nothing is certain, but I'm asking you to trust me anyway. The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparation. Thomas helped him encrypt files, set up automated releases, establish escape routes. Offshore accounts were activated. New identity documents were created. Every contingency Daehyun could imagine was planned for, though he knew the real test would come when his carefully constructed world learned he was abandoning it. On the 4th evening, he dressed for the engagement gala in his penthouse, the same Tom Ford suit, the same expensive watch, the same mask of control he'd worn for 15 years. But underneath, everything had changed. His phone buzzed. A text from Zara. We're here, back corner like you asked. The kids think this is an adventure. Another text, this one from Thomas. Last chance to change your mind, boss. Once you do this, there's no going back. Daehyun didn't respond to either message. He simply pocketed his phone and headed to the venue. The grand ballroom was even more spectacular than Hana's birthday party. 1,000 guests this time, every significant figure in Seoul's criminal underworld, plus their legitimate business fronts, politicians, judges, police commissioners, all the people who made empires like his possible. Hana was stunning in a white gown that was clearly meant to evoke wedding imagery. Victor stood nearby, surveying his kingdom with satisfied eyes. Everything was perfect, controlled, exactly as they'd planned. At exactly 9 p.m., Daehyun was called to the stage. A microphone waited. 500 pairs of eyes turned toward him expectantly. This was supposed to be the moment he secured everything: power, alliance, the future of his empire. He saw Zara in the back corner, half hidden behind a marble column. Elijah and Naya stood beside her, dressed in their nice clothes, eyes wide at the spectacle. They had no idea they were watching their father choose between 2 lives, 2 futures, 2 versions of himself. Daehyun took the microphone. Thank you all for being here tonight, he began. His voice was steady, controlled, betraying nothing. For 15 years, I've built an empire. I've made difficult choices. I've sacrificed everything, my conscience, my peace, any chance at normalcy, for power and respect. Approving murmurs rippled through the crowd. This was the language they understood. Sacrifice for success, ruthlessness for results. But tonight, Dae-hyun continued, I'm making a different choice. The murmurs stopped. Victor Lee straightened, eyes narrowing. Hana's smile froze. I can't marry you, Hana. I'm sorry, but this alliance, this life, it's not what I want anymore. Gasps, shocked whispers. Someone dropped a champagne glass, the crystal shattering loud in the sudden silence. Furthermore, Dae-hyun's voice grew stronger. I'm leaving, tonight, and I'm releasing evidence to the prosecutors, evidence that will expose every corrupt deal, every illegal transaction, every crime that's been committed in these rooms by the people in this room. Chaos erupted. Shouts, threats. Victor Lee surged toward the stage, his face purple with rage. You're dead, Victor roared. You're dead before you reach the door. If I don't check in within the hour, everything goes public automatically, Dae-hyun said calmly. Kill me, you destroy yourselves. Let me go, and your secrets stay secret. Your choice. He stepped down from the stage and walked toward Zara. The crowd parted instinctively, too shocked to react. Immediately, Hana intercepted him halfway, tears of fury streaming down her face. You're throwing away everything, she hissed. For what? For a woman who ran from you? For children you don't even know? I'm throwing it away to finally know them, Dae-hyun said gently. Goodbye, Hana. He took Zara's hand. She stared at him with something between terror and awe. You really did it. I really did it. We need to go, now. They moved quickly through the chaos, Elijah and Naya between them, confused, but sensing the urgency. Outside, Thomas waited with an armored SUV, engine running. Go, Thomas said, clasping Dae-hyun's hand one final time. I'll hold them off as long as I can. Live well, boss. Be happy. The SUV raced through Seoul's streets toward the private airstrip where a plane waited. In the back seat, Naya climbed into Dae-hyun's lap, suddenly tired from all the excitement. Are you really our dad? She asked sleepily. Yes, he said, his voice breaking. I really am. Good, she mumbled, her eyes closing. Mom says we needed one. 6 months later, a modest house in Portland, Oregon. Daniel Cho, formerly Dae-hyun Shin, helped Elijah with homework at the kitchen table. Long division. He was patient now, something he'd never been in his previous life. Zara came home from her hospital shift, her face tired but smiling. Naya rushed to hug her mother, talking rapidly about her day at school. Dad made spaghetti, Naya announced proudly. Did he burn it? Zara asked, grinning at him. Only a little, Daniel admitted. They laughed. The sound filled the small house, warm and genuine and utterly ordinary. This was what happiness felt like. Small, simple, real. After dinner, after the children were in bed, Daniel stood at the window looking out at the quiet street. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message made his blood run cold. We found you. You can't hide forever. He deleted it, closed his eyes, felt Zara's hand slip into his. They'll always be out there, she said quietly. Looking? I know. Was it worth it? Giving up everything? Daniel turned from the window. Upstairs, he could hear Naya singing to herself, some made-up song about princess detectives. Elijah's voice joined in, harmony to her melody. His children, his family, his second chance. Yes, he said, every single second of it. Some men are born into darkness, others choose it. But the rarest, the ones who survive, are those who find the courage to walk back into the light, knowing the shadows will always follow. Daehyun Shin had been a monster who built an empire on fear. Daniel Cho was just a man trying to be a good father. He would spend the rest of his life proving that the second identity was stronger than the first. Outside, a car drove slowly past the house. Too slowly. Daniel noted the license plate automatically, the old instincts impossible to kill entirely. But then Zara squeezed his hand, and he let the vigilance go. Not completely, never completely, but enough. Enough to live, enough to love, enough to be finally the man those two children upstairs deserved. The shadows would always follow, but for tonight, for this moment, the light was enough. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more powerful narratives about redemption, choice, and the courage to change. Drop a comment telling us what you thought. Would you have made the same choice? And share this with someone who needs to hear this message today. Thanks for watching. See you in the next story.